Have you ever wondered why you must commute to the office for work you can do remotely? Commuting to work drains your lifespan, literally. When you add the numbers, the average American commutes 4 months a year. Yes, 4 months. Imagine what you could do if you had the time back. Yet today, remote workers across the US are being called back and commute to the office. In this video, I'll explain how corporate leadership decided to end remote work. I'll provide tips on whether returning to the office is viable. And finally, identify some solutions for you if you face an RTO. Are you wondering why companies have called remote workers back to the office? I spent over half a decade studying, participating in, or coaching others about careers in the tech industry. Tech, especially the software industry, is nearly synonymous with remote work. Everyone wanted these jobs because you could code on the beach with a piña colada on your side. At least that was the meme. But the idea of making a 6-figure salary while working from anywhere in the world sounded fake until I achieved this exact goal between 2022 and 2024. I couldn't believe it. All I had to do was turn on my computer in my bedroom, complete my required tasks, and every 2 weeks, a fat paycheck would land in my bank account. My life had become the meme. I even lived by the beach. What I didn't know, however, was that I was caught in a colossal job market wave. In 2020, for obvious reasons, every company was going remote. Since I was generally new to the industry then, I mistakenly believed remote work was the norm. The trend, however, didn't last. I learned this when I was laid off from my remote job and returned to the job market in 2024. After months of job searching, I noticed that remote work opportunities were becoming less frequent. More companies had executed or planned some form of remote herding or a return to office mandate. I learned this when I was laid off from my remote job and returned to the job market in 2024. After months of job searching, I noticed that remote opportunities were becoming less frequent. More companies had executed or planned some form of remote herding or a return to the office mandate, RTO. The dynamic had changed entirely from the start of the decade. In my desperation, I took an in-office job. Suddenly, my once nearly blissful remote life faced a harsh reality check. My commutes to the office involved about an hour of heavy traffic each way, leaving me hardly any time outside of work. When I arrived at the office and opened my laptop, a subtle dread lingered in the back of my mind. Everything I was doing, the cost of commuting, the sacrifice of my limited time on earth, the negative impact on my physical health, was for the sake of work I could perform just a few feet from my bed. The situation has made me wonder why remote workers were called back to the office. Was it because remote work decreases worker productivity? FlexJobs states that 77% of the 8,400 remote workers surveyed claim that working from home increases their productivity, not the other way around. Interesting. It may be because remote work is too risky, and it's not proven that companies can be successful if they're entirely remote or offer flexible work arrangements. Then I discovered that NVIDIA, arguably the best performing company in this decade, is highly flexible in its work arrangements. Okay. The companies implementing RTO must know something we employees don't. Perhaps that's the reason. When I researched further, I found out that the reason for most RTOs is based for stuff like it improves teamwork, innovation, and company culture. Now, that sounds nice, but what does that actually mean? How are the outcomes related to teamwork, innovation, and culture measured? Actually, how are they measured? Through a bit more research, they're not actually being measured. That's the shocking part. The reasons effectively sound meaningful but don't mean anything. In short, you're being called back to work because your company said so. No matter what kind of dressing companies spin on RTO, the whole situation reads to me, and I'm sure to you, as a power play for control. But I can't prove that, unfortunately. I can only call out what I see. However, I can prove that companies that have done RTOs have deep ties to commercial real estate that expand office space. For example, Walmart has mandated relocating for most of its remote workforce to the corporate office in Bentonville, Arkansas, with a timeline from August 2024 to this past January. This move coincides with the development of Walmart's new 350-acre campus, featuring amenities like diverse dining, a hotel, and fitness center, which to me indicates a significant investment in and commitment to office-based commercial real estate. JP Morgan, on the other hand, is enforcing a 5-day RTO for its employees while building a new commercial office space on 270th Park Ave in New York City, which will house up to 14,000 employees. In other instances, companies like Amazon take the opposite approach, bringing back 350,000 employees without providing the physical office space needed to host them. While CEO Andy Jassy claims the RTO mandate fosters collaboration among workers, the reality is that employees don't actually have the physical space to work. In exchange for the peace of their home office, employees are being shuffled like meat into stuffy, noisy, and interruption-ridden spaces. And all this is being done in the name of collaboration. All right, now, I'll mention that Amazon and every company I've exemplified so far had a stellar 2024 in regard to financial success. During that same year, many of their employees were still working remote. Another popular reason flying across the internet is that RTOs are being executed as soft layoffs. This point is similar to the control point and is pretty tough to prove. However, we can definitely connect some dots. And to this point, I'd show us the cramped and unworkable work environments in Amazon's case. For example, if you think Amazon wanted all those 350,000 employees to collaborate, wouldn't they at least accommodate the employees' spatial needs? Like actually, wouldn't they? And I would ask you, wouldn't you naturally want to quit if your work environment is actively hostile to your well-being? Could be. With all that being said, are you still wondering whether returning to the office is a good option for you? Here's my experience. I worked remotely for my entire software development career. My whole life was designed around being able to be in my bedroom. For example, I didn't need to commute, so I had no car. As I said, I lived by the beach because I could work from anywhere. If I wanted to travel, I could travel. It didn't matter because I worked through my computer. All I needed was a reliable Wi-Fi connection. Then, when I took the in-office job out of desperation, that lifestyle ended swiftly. The job was 1 hour and 30 minutes away with traffic, with no car, desperate for work. I bit the bullet and committed. To arrive to work on time, I had to wake up before dawn and purchase an Uber ride, which would cost between $40 and $50 one way. Collectively, in a month, I spent nearly an entire work week commuting, which would be something about like 30 hours, and about $2,000 in that same month just for the cost of commuting. What was I making these sacrifices for? Seriously. I was torturing myself a bit for a bit of work that I could do at home. The situation was, it wasn't tenable. My life at that point had changed entirely. So where does that leave you? I'll preface this by saying that this is not financial advice, but seriously, I'm a dude on the internet. Please be discerning. Suppose an RTO has impacted you and you're considering adapting to it. In that case, I recommend ensuring it works logistically and mentally. Commuting to work is expensive, and your life outside work becomes more challenging. Your monthly overhead becomes steeper, and suddenly, car-related payments become more of a factor. That's what happened to me, and I'm not saying I'm the universal case, but it is an example. Then there is the office part. Offices often amplify political tensions or are noisy and distracting. You're usually forced to fight for the time you need to finish your important work. Instead of being focused on output, the workplace becomes an awkward popularity contest. It becomes a space full of uncomfortable laughs and even more painful people pleasing, right? Is subjecting yourself to that kind of jungle gym worth it to you? I'd also look at the type of RTO you've been dealt with. Are you required to do 5 days out of the week, or can you choose what days you want to come in? If the company allows you to keep some of those days working from home, that may be a more tenable situation. Your commute costs are more reasonable, or you live near the office. These are some things to look at. If the RTO, on the other hand, is undoable, the following points should help you find a way out. Play the game or regret it. Pick one. One of my biggest regrets in my career is assuming my employer cared. If I were asked to go above and beyond, should that work not be rewarded with loyalty, increased pay, or recognition? If I'm being asked to drastically change my life to work somewhere physically, should that sacrifice not be appreciated as a sign of my commitment to my work and the company's mission? I'm referring to me, but I recommend you ask yourself these questions. See, I once thought merit mattered. However, as time passed and I became more senior in my skill set, I realized something. A great employee in the workplace isn't an exceptional performer. A great employee is an exceptional conformer. Conformity. Are you following the rules and procedures? Are you conforming to being, as Pink Floyd says, another brick in the wall? Success in the office often comes down to how little dignity you have. You know it, I know it, we've all seen it. The corporates will dangle the money over you while they make you hop on one foot and bark like a doggy. I mention this to paint a picture in your head of how cold the game you're involved in is. It's business after all. Do you think the corpos care if you have a baby on the way? Do you think they care that your entire family depends on your bi-weekly income? Do you think they care that you've moved across the entire United States and changed your life for them? Do you think they care that you've spent countless nights losing sleep over a code project you don't own? My recommendation is to not feel bad about looking elsewhere for work, especially if you're getting hit with the RTO. Corpos won't blink to pull you into a random meeting and fire you. That's the game, guys. Loyalty in corporate goes only skin deep. My favorite solution is so let's think about some solutions. My favorite solution is my personal favorite because it completely removes you from the rat race. This solution is to start your own business. Now, I can already see the comment section. It's not for everyone. I'll admit that, okay? However, many of you feel the entrepreneurial urge or have long-standing ideas you've wanted to pursue. This solution is a good opportunity to test that urge or idea while, here's the key word, you have work. And that's the secret sauce. business is a long-term game that takes a lot of work. In fact, there are so many unknowns and challenges that you'll face along the way that I don't recommend quitting your job to pursue this option. The wisest pursuit, though challenging, is to spend your afternoons and weekends after your daytime job getting your idea off the ground. That way, you only leave once you're confident enough that your business can pay the bills. It's the safe way, but it is also the hard way. Again, I just want to let you guys know that this is not financial advice. You must start today if this is what you want to do, and not wait until tragedy strikes. If you don't, you'll regret not having a safety net to catch you when things go wrong. I personally know from experience. I know some of you watching know as well. The second tip is a little bit more conventional, but very, very worthwhile. And this is to start looking for a new job immediately, which in my opinion is perhaps the most common sense one. I've experienced being laid off with no prospects, and it's scary, guys. I've also experienced taking a job out of sheer desperation, and brother, I advise you to avoid making such moves. You're committing your life energy to a decision made at your weakest. And often that's a tricky move because you'll usually settle, when you're desperate, you'll usually settle for less than you're worth or less than you can get. If you currently have work, I recommend methodically searching for the types of companies you'd be willing to work for and applying frequently to those kinds of roles. The tech job market is extremely scrappy and competitive, so waiting to apply until you're out of a job is a losing strategy. For example, for me, my favorite type of company is a small one, somewhere between 15 to 100 employees, that is fully remote and where my skill sets are trusted, respected, and needed. I like the idea of being able to message someone on their team when I'm looking for the job, or being interviewed by someone at the company who is not HR or a recruiter. That's the thing about small companies. There's little to no red tape. Your opinion often matters because the team is small and you have direct access to the CEO or CTO, which matters a lot. The trade-off, because there is one, is that small and remote companies often have crazy hours. They have a finite burn rates if they're startups, and they're not very good for people who like just having one specific task to do. These are the kind of jobs that require you to wear multiple hats. When I worked at a very small company, it was a startup, and I was a contractor. I did work crazy hours. However, because I was a contractor, I also got paid reasonably well for the amount of extra time that I was spending. I'll say this, that the most dangerous attitude you can have right now is believing you're irreplaceable. The tech industry's status is the most volatile it's been in our generation. To explore what's happening in the industry and prepare correctly for your move, check this video here. If you, on the other hand, are thinking of executing your dream and building your own business, please check out this video. It will help you save money, energy, and your most valuable asset, your time.